Hello everybody, Ken McAuliffe here, the jazz vinyl lover. Thanks everybody so much for watching my last video. It seemed to have struck kind of nerve. It's currently up to about 5,400 views, which that's the most popular video I've ever put up outside of my videos with Michael Fremer, Art Dudley, and Herb Reichert. So those are that's really great. I guess most of you agree with me. My point of that was, outside of my vinyl group, is that we should have respect for these great artists, these great American artists, who in general U.S. culture are just sort of shat upon in general. I mean, walk up to any guy on the street right now, even here in New York City, and I'll ask them, who is Louis Armstrong, who is Duke Ellington, who is Carmen McRae, who is Betty Carter, who is Kay Winding, who is Sonny Clark, and they'll look at me like I have a hole in my head, because Americans generally just don't have any respect, or really don't have any knowledge of jazz. Even when the New York Times, the newspaper of record for the United States, I would think, stops covering jazz, I mean, what the, what? Anyway, thanks for watching my videos, I really appreciate it. And today I wanted to do something that many people have asked me to go back to, the 5x5 record challenge. Behind me are, I guess, maybe the bulk of my recordings, and I know what I have generally. These are all Blue Notes. These are my impulse records. From here to here are Music Matters and Tone Poet pressings. This is the end of the Blue Note. And then just starting A down to X, we have just alphabetical jazz by the artist name. In my other room, I have my free jazz records, 3 or 4 racks of records I use when evaluating hi-fi gear for stereophile. Below that I have my Brazilian records, and I have all my classical records out there. But anyway, the whole point of this is I just reach behind me and pull out a record and see if I can say anything intelligent about it. And like I said, I know generally what these things are. So let's pull out a Blue Note record. I think this is Blue Note up here. Yes, it is. And we have Hank Mobley with Donald Byrd and Lee Morgan. This is one of the very early Hank Mobley records. This is not the famous, this is 1540. 1542, I believe that's the model number, sort of the beige cover with him wearing sunglasses. That's the most valuable jazz record in existence. I think there were only 1,500 of them printed. I don't even have a knockoff version of it. There were only 1,500 of them printed, I was saying. And it's gone for as much as $7,000, I believe. Either 7 or 17,000. I'm not sure which, probably 7,000. Because there just aren't any of them out there. So if you're a mad collector, you have to have every first pressing Blue Note. That is the one you want to go for. But this record is a Japanese pressing. It features Hank Mobley Sextet, Donald Byrd, Lee Morgan trumpets, Hank Mobley, Horace Silver, Paul Chambers, Charlie Persip drums. This is, for me, early Blue Note era Hank Mobley before he's really hit his stride. It may be after Soul Station. I'm not positive actually, but it's not in the same sort of compositional performance ballpark as A Caddy for Daddy or No Room for Squares, which are maybe his most popular records. He made so many records, and most of them are great. Even at the end of his career, Thinking of Home and a few of these other ones that they're just now starting to reissue. I believe for the upcoming Tone Poet series, Blue Note is going to reissue a record I've never heard of from Hank Mobley. I forgot the name of it. But this is your standard. Everybody's got plenty of room to blow. Only 4 tunes, touch and go, double whammy, barrel of funk, Mobley mania. This is essentially an early blowing session with all the Blue Note masters. Even though Charlie Persip doesn't make it onto a lot of Blue Note records, this would usually be Art Taylor or Philly Joe Jones. But a solid recording. I'm sort of a Hank Mobley completist, so I like to have all the Hank Mobley records in whatever form. If you don't know Hank Mobley, he was often called the middleweight tenor champ, after Coltrane being the heavyweight tenor champ. And he's a totally different personality, obviously. You hear a lot of swing in his, he has a beautiful tone, Hank Mobley. He's very lyrical, he likes to have fun. He was not, searching the cosmos for truth like John Coltrane was, but he made brilliant records on Blue Note. Sometimes we have people coming in the Jazz Record Center. I have my Bill Evans records, I have this record, I have that record. What should I buy next? Or if I'm generally on the phone with somebody, I'll just say, buy pretty much any Blue Note record if you want to start a jazz collection, because they're all really great and one leads to another. I don't know the year of this one, but this is a classic. This is actually kind of hard to find. I don't see this too often. Either as a Japanese pressing, definitely not as a Liberty pressing, but Hank Mobley, Donald Byrd with Lee Morgan, Blue Note 1540. So let's reach down here, see what I got. This is really funny. This is Jan Garbarek. So I was thinking about doing this today, and I said I should pull out a Jan Garbarek record because he made a series of records on ECM. He's still on ECM. I think he's an alto saxophone. He may be a tenor saxophonist. But even to this day, Jan Garbarek is a little hard for me to listen to. He has a sound sort of like Coltrane's Free Period, a little more lyrical, a little more cerebral, not quite as aggressive, but it's an acquired taste, his sound. This is a 70s era ECM record, the title being Places. This record includes a great lineup: Bill Connors on guitar, Joel Taylor organ, piano, and Jack DeJohnette on drums. You'll usually find John Christensen on Garbarek's records. There's so many great records and so many great artists who recorded for ECM. If you can get into Jan Garbarek, he has a very much like a farm animal on a mountain playing free, but the groups are not free. I wouldn't call this free jazz. All of the ECM stuff is very expansive, very cerebral, very probing, very searching. I imagine all these are improvisations, even though it says they're actually 4 tunes. This was recorded 1978, prime ECM period. For me, if you're going to start buying ECM records, I wouldn't start with Jan Garbarek. I would start personally with Terge Ripdahl. I have a few of his records over here. They're actually releasing his first 4 ECM records. They've only reissued records very briefly. A few years ago, I think they reissued like maybe 10. And these records are getting harder and harder to find. But if I was starting with ECM, I'd get Timeless, Jan Abercrombie and John Hammer. Any of the Jack DeJohnette albums. He made about 10 records for ECM. Any of the Bill Connors records, Bobo Stenson records, a wonderful pianist. The Keith Jarrett records. So anyway, not really free, but cerebral. Jan Garbarek, kind of a tortured soul, but as you can see, he's not tortured. Let's pull one over from right behind me here. If you pull that right behind me, Coltrane plays the blues. Coltrane had so many distinct phases. He had his prestige period, which actually might be my favorite. We've had a few of those come in the store lately, and I've been gobbling them up. Set in the Pays, Black Pearls, The Believer, John Coltrane. And those records are so fun to listen to because you can hear him as his prestige catalog goes along. At first, he's not as clear, but by the time he's in and out of Miles' quintet, he really raises his game. So on some of those tunes, like I was listening to Black Pearls today, you know, the group is pretty straight ahead of hard bop, and he comes in, you know, playing sheets of sound, and it's really beautiful. It's like these endless streams of repetitive, slurring 30-second notes. It's just like an endless loop. It's so amazing. But this is right after that. This is the beginning of the great group with McCoy Tyner, Jimmy Garrison, and Elvin Jones. This is actually one of the first jazz records I ever bought. Coltrane Plays the Blues. And this is a nice original copy from, I guess, the early 60s. And these are unusual that they're all blues forms. Blues to Elvin, blues to Bechet, blues to you, Mr. Day, Mr. Sin, Mr. Night. And a lot of this is sort of slow to medium tempo. So as a drummer, when I was learning to play, you know, you're trying to understand what Elvin Jones is doing, this is a great record to follow along with. It's a very relaxed record. This is like a 7:30 on a Saturday kind of record. This is not like, you know, Coltrane sound, nothing like Giant Steps. This is after Giant Steps, but this is a great record. You can see the cover has that beautiful laminated cover. This is a stereo. If you're going to buy John Coltrane records and you find this one, this is a great one to buy. It's common in stereo, hard to find in mono, and people don't really focus that much on Trane's Atlantic period, mostly because they haven't been heavily reissued, even though there's a 50th anniversary reissue of Giant Steps, which I'd like to hear because I'm sure it sounds better than the original, which just doesn't sound good at all. But people tend to focus on his impulse output because that's the most revolutionary and perhaps the broadest, from like the stuff like Interstellar Space, but you can also buy you know, the Ballads record or the record with Johnny Coltrane. It's a really broad, as where his Atlantic records and his Prestige records are really just straight out of the mind of Coltrane. Not that much producers being involved. Even though I wouldn't be surprised if Neshui Erdogan, the producer of this record, suggested he would do a bunch of blues. But in the chronology of Coltrane records, this is a good one and one worth having. So we're up to 3 records. Let's go down here. Esther Phillips. Holy moly. Black Eyed Peas. I've been meaning to do like a video of jazz vocalist. And she is just, you know, the stuff on Kudu, which this is Kudu, you know, cut in the 70s. A lot of it's Idris Muhammad. It's cut in New York studios primarily, I believe. And it's just funky. And she's got this unusual voice. She's sort of like Dinah Washington, but much slyer and hipper and a little bit darker. And I can't, you know, it's got kind of a babyish voice, but really sharp, kind of a nasty edge. And all her records are funky. They have great lineups. There's a few on Kudu. The title, Black Eyed Blues. What does that say? And there she is. This record includes Ron Carter, Ian Wallace on drums, Charlie Brown on guitar. I don't know who any of those guys are. Pepper Adams on baritone, Jerry Dodge and Pee Wee Ellis on alto, John Faddis, Marvin Stamm on trumpet. So this is a record with an orchestra, because they don't list a bunch of violin players, cello, background vocals. 1973. She's a harder vocalist to find. She's basically forgotten now. A lot of jazz vocalists are basically forgotten now. Carmen McRae, generally forgotten. Beverly Kinney, forgotten. There's like interest in her for whatever reason. You know, I just got cool to Gene Lee, who did a record with Ram Blake we have in the store. A really, really hip, amazing vocalist. But I would definitely say search out Esther Phillips, because she doesn't sound like anybody else. And she's really engaging. She sort of flirts with you the way she sings. And she's very laid back on everything. I wouldn't say it's spoken word, but it's mellow. You can see her like in a club with a mic, kind of sitting on the piano, kind of talking to you. So Esther Phillips is very cool. That's 4, maybe we'll do 6. And we have Johnny Smith. Talk about forgotten. Johnny Smith made a series of brilliant records on Roost. I think primarily in the 50s. This was 20 bucks. Really straight looking guy. Reminiscing. And he's a very straight guitar player. In fact, they don't come much straighter than Johnny Smith, but he has such a beautiful tone and beautiful chordal work. And he made a series of just brilliant albums. And if you can find them, it's hard to find them in good shape, because people listen to these records. His rhythm sections, there were never, the guys on the records weren't known by any, like this one doesn't even have the rhythm section noted. But he did a record, probably the most popular, but not his best record, called The Man with the Blue Guitar. Did a record with Stan Getz. But I like his general recordings on Roost, because he played a hollow body electric guitar, and he had this big, beautiful sound. I just did a story with Mary Halverson, the guitarist, for an upcoming Stereophile. And Mary Halverson, if you listen to her, couldn't be further from Johnny Smith. She's avant-garde. You can tell she's influenced by punk and metal. She's just, but she's an amazing guitarist. She does heavy use of foot pedals to where it sounds like she's, like her guitar solos are being cut up, but it's not, it's all her. She's one of the leading figures in contemporary jazz, and one of her favorite guitar players is Johnny Smith, which I found out while interviewing her. Her guitar, which is a Guild Archtop Artist Award, was originally designed as the Johnny Smith Guild Artist Award, but he didn't want it. So she got it. I'm not sure if it's the same guitar, but it's the same model. And it's that big, beautiful archtop sound you might associate with Wes Montgomery. But if you just want pure, serene, in the pocket, unaffected, straight guitar, beautiful tone, Johnny Smith is worth finding out. And people don't really care about him, so they go cheap, even though I paid 20 for this, probably because it's in perfect shape in the shrink wrap. And there are no reissues of Johnny Smith records. I even have like the complete Roost Mosaic box on CD, which I never listened to, and it's worth like 500 bucks. Go figure. That's 5, but let's do one more for shits and giggles. We'll pull out another Blue Note. Bud Powell. I don't know much about Bud Powell, to tell you the truth. He's one of the founders of bebop. Had a lot of trouble with drugs and was in and out of mental hospitals, where I think they did shock therapy to him. But sort of a forgotten figure. But when you think about the invention of bebop, you got to think about Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, Max Roach, Tommy Potter, and Bud Powell. Just that beautiful flowing style. Are these essential records? I mean, this is a, this is an original. It's not an original, but it's an early pressing with the RVG and the deep groove and the dead wax and all that stuff. Whatever. If you want to understand jazz piano, you have to get Bud Powell records. To hear that beautiful flowing language, just all acoustic piano, all bop, really, really fast, trademark. Before Oscar Peterson, before Horace Silver, I guess post Art Tatum. He's really the man for bebop recordings. This is the first one on Blue Note. There are 2 on Blue Note. This is actually the second one. George Vivier, Tommy Potter, Arthur Taylor, and Roy Haynes. It's amazing to think that Roy Haynes is still with us. Hard to believe. Anyway, that's 5x5, or actually 5x6. I hope you got a kick out of this. I like doing these. Makes me pull out my old records and listen to them. Thanks again. Thanks for subscribing. And peace out.